a freak thunderstorm hit with unbelievable winds, and we were tied up great, and the ropes didn't break, but the bollards pulled right out of the pier.
This is Facility Rockstars, the podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of our daily lives, facility professionals. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. Join me as we honor these great leaders, sharing stories, insights, and expertise that empower us all to learn and grow together. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Coludus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Welcome back to Facility Rockstars. I'm your host, Jay Culbert. I have a very special guest today. He's dedicated his life to maritime education, leadership, and service, both at sea and on shore. After graduating with a degree in marine engineering in 1981, he spent 8 years sailing the globe as an engineer with Transocean and the American Maritime Officers Union. When he came ashore, he pursued his MBA at the University of Chicago, further expanding his leadership and business acumen. He returned to the Massachusetts Maritime Academy in 1992 as a faculty member and quickly became a cornerstone of the institution. Over the decades, he's taught a wide array of engineering courses, earned his doctorate from UMass Boston, chaired the engineering department, and now leads the graduate and continuing education division, home to advanced degrees, professional certifications, and industry-recognized maritime training programs. He has helped guide 22 full cohorts of graduate students across emergency and facilities management programs, authored publications and grants, and remains deeply committed to student success and community impact. And not surprisingly, the cohort starting this fall is already sold out. He serves as Dean of Graduate and Continuing Studies at Mass Maritime Academy, Captain James McDonald. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having me. I'm glad. Love to see what you're doing here. I'm so happy to see, as you know, we've talked about this, the facility managers getting their due in this world.
Thank you for being here, by the way. As you know, we call facility professionals the unsung heroes. It's always behind the scenes. So yeah, I'm so grateful that you took the time to sit down with me today and let's really get into our conversation here. That's an impressive list of things I had to read about you there, Mr. McDonald. That was really good. You've done quite a bit in your career, quite a bit with the school, with several schools. You've been to sea. I've heard some of the stories. So all that being said, if you could pick one, what's your biggest lesson learned?
My biggest lesson learned crossing from sea and shore, I would still say that without a doubt that it's performance and it's managing people and their performance. And to me, performance has always been ability times motivation. And whenever you have a performance problem with someone that works for you, you always have to decipher right away, is it an ability problem or is it a motivation problem? And if it's an ability problem, is it their absolute aptitude? Do they need training? And then same with motivation, you can kind of break it down and try to figure out what it is. But that is the number one thing that I have realized is that managing people is the toughest part of any job. Technical problems we all love. My gosh, I mean, my favorite thing at my home is when my wife tells me, I think we have a pipe leaking, and like any facility engineer, we jump up and we say, let's get on it. They're fixable. All technical problems, you're going to get fixed pretty easily. But people problems, you have to break them down to performance, and it's always ability times motivation. I figured that out a long time ago, and I've stuck with that, and it's done me well for a long, long, long time.
It's the first time I've heard the two kind of expressed in that manner and brought together that way.
I'm going to copyright that, Jay.
I love it. It's perfect. Jamie McDonald, copyright, done. I'm going to get on that. About motivation, I've heard over the years, right, you can't motivate people, right? So, but could you talk about motivation and what your thoughts are on it and how it's created, how it's sustained?
Well, it's a tricky one because, for us, we're already passionate about our profession. So you hope that if a person's already passionate, you have to decipher, you know, do they have a personal problem? Is there a problem at home? And then it gets deeper and then it gets trickier. But you hopefully have done the work prior, and the person that you've hired, if you had a say in hiring that person, that the passion was already there. So if you have that, that's a big plus. But then it's even trickier to decide, okay, well, if it's a personal, personal issue, then that gets trickier to dig into. But sometimes you have to do that.
Mm, mm. Could you give, obviously no names, but any examples of like a situation where you were able to discover something around their motivation and how you did that?
Sure. I mean, I had a person, no name, no gender, here working for me, and it was starting. The performance was starting to go down drastically, and there was issue after issue. And I finally realized that person was getting ready to go through a big divorce,
Mm,
and so we had to cut that person some slack, and see where it was going. It ultimately didn't work out. But that would be a classic case of something that was personal, and that person needed help externally to get back on their feet.
mm. Great example, and good on you for discovering that and giving the slack. And even though it didn't work out, it was still, it sounds like you discovered the right thing there. So you and the team.
Right. That was, someone working for me. It's the same when you have, students, if students are late for class. I mean, you can kind of I kind of use the same formula for even down to the student level. If there's an issue, I'll discuss it with them, and I'll call them in the office here, you know, and say, you've been late now 3 times for class. What's up with that? That type of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's much easier. You smartly said, let's talk about motivation. That's the thorny one, right?
Mm,
Ability is training and aptitude. So, you hopefully it's their aptitude is good, and it's a training issue, and you can school them up.
sure. So fair to say, and if I missed this, forgive me, you're hiring for motivation first, or I don't think we touched on that.
I don't know. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's probably true. I've never thought about it, so you just said it like that, but that's definitely something. I was just on a hiring committee in the last 2 weeks, and I didn't, as you say that, yeah, I wanted to hear that this person was passionate, because if they're passionate, there's a good chance they're gonna be a longer term employee, because it
Mm,
couldn't be. I mean, it's a tough work environment now. I mean, and, capturing great talent and keeping great talent, or the better word, of course, is retaining great talent, is getting tougher and tougher and tougher. So I love trying to figure that one out first. But yeah, that's true. I would say that's definitely true. Is there passion there? Because that's half the battle with motivation right on the spot.
I've seen it makes everything else easier in my experience too.
Hmm.
It just, if I've heard the term batteries included. They showed up with batteries included, right? And
You
everything
should.
else just
Well,
goes.
someone should copyright that one. That's good.
It may already be. I don't know. I think I know I'm stealing it, but yeah,
I
or
love
borrowing
it.
it. Awesome. And we have a lot of things to get into, but I do want to just showcase again, like Mass Maritime Academy. I mean, your institution is amazing. The whole team has been such a support system for Facility Rockstars and the whole community in so many ways. I think if I get it right, it's either 12. I think you're the 13th guest on the show from MMA, which is I'm so grateful for, because you have so many influences in so many different areas, and so many people can benefit from what everyone is sharing. It's amazing. So again, I appreciate you jumping on the show for so many different reasons, and you're doing some great work down there.
No, we love it that we have the undergraduate degree in facility engineering. And then, very often we get a lot of those same students that come back for the facility management degree, where, again, as we already said, the focus is more about managing people, projects, policy, and things like that. But, a great question. I mean, I mean, you were probably going to ask me this, would be really put me on the spot. Don't ask me
I'll
this,
let
but
you put yourself on the spot.
that would be, if you went to Mass Maritime now, what degree would you take?
Oh, I love that
I
question.
know, it's a good one.
Thanks
So
for asking it.
you're next, the next Mass Maritime people. I think, well, the first, certainly for the last 20 something years, I would have said facility engineering, no question about it, because 95% of our marine engineers go to sea and they're done in 3 or 4 years, and they come back and they end up being facility engineers. That may change slightly, that the salaries have exploded and are so high now out at sea, but so they are very, very good now at managing a pharmaceutical or managing a college, and as the vice president of facilities.
Mhm.
But I think definitely I would have gone that route. The internships are fantastic, and of course, flow right into the 4+1 program, and get your facility management degree, and you are miles ahead of your peers.
Awesome to know all that. The 4+1 program, can you just talk about that a little bit more? Because I want to make sure we take enough time to talk about the programs you're working on.
Absolutely, Ken. And yeah, it's funny because this part this is so unplanned. I'll tell you right now, the 4+1 program. I'm going to borrow your term. I'm looking for student rock stars, and so and because you'd be so surprised how many students. There's 7 undergraduate degrees at Mass Maritime. Okay. And from those 7 undergraduate degrees, 3 of them are engineering, marine engineering, energy systems engineering, and of course, facilities engineering. But the other ones, marine safety and environmental protection, emergency management, marine transportation, international maritime business. We have so many of those students that then come into the facility management master's program, and they end up being facility rock stars moving forward. But so what I look for is, though, as I said, undergraduate rock stars, these students that are, have a very high cum, that show ability there and their motivation when they come to me and I interview them. As you said, you're right again. I look for their passion right off the bat. So even if they are not from that undergraduate engineering major, so many of them through our program have moved into facility management and are now doing, they're rock stars. They're the vice president of facilities, it's at banks in Boston, are students that have come from other degrees, taken the facility management program and moved right into it. So the 4+1 program, we look for those rock stars, and they start in their senior year. They start taking the master's program. So if they have applied and they have been allowed in, they take 1 class in the fall and they take 2 classes in the spring. They graduate with their undergraduate degree, and it's a fully online program. And then they continue right through till March or April. And then they graduate again the next year. So
Impressive.
It's worked out really well.
And I know we're so, as Jamie aptly pointed out for everyone listening, I'm off script, and we're never scripted on the show, but we did have a little chat ahead of doing the show and said, hey, let's talk about these few things, but we didn't talk about 4+1. So
we've already
I'll pull it back. Don't worry, I'll pull it back in a minute here. But how did the 4+1 get created? When did it start?
I created it because I thought I saw a need for it. I thought I saw these students that were so motivated, so ahead. And I'll give you another example. Some of them are so ahead, and I don't know enough about how the financial department work in undergraduate and colleges, meaning I know a lot of them need loans, and to get loans, you have to be taking so many credits. So some of these undergraduate rock stars, they were so far ahead that when they needed to take they're in their senior year, they didn't have enough classes to get their loans to pay for the classes.
Wow.
And so I was in a meeting one time, and I'm just like, this is crazy. So why don't we create a 4+1 program where these rock stars, can then start taking graduate classes, which would fulfill their loan requirement from the federal government, and it's a win-win all around.
Great solution. Wow. Great creativity. Not even creativity, but just you filled a need, an obvious need.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd love to say I totally did create it, but part of me is like, why didn't I think of this 20 years ago?
Hey, it's here now. You should feel good about that. Thank you for sharing all that. I really appreciate it. So to pull myself back a bit, I know one of the topics we did talk about, other than managing people, was policy. And that's something I think you'd like to expand upon. And I'd love to hear you expand on it. Like your thoughts on policy, what it means to you, et cetera.
Well, I try to encourage the students that are coming into the program, don't come into it unless you want to be a decision maker at the C-suite level where you're making policy. And so to make policy, you have to have a vision. There's got to be something you can be passionate about it. And we're all passionate about engineering and facilities, but where does it go in the future? And like, for example, what you just said, creating the 4+1 program, that's a new policy, that type of thing. I also feel that at Mass Maritime, and this is going way off script and no one knows what I'm about to tell you, that we should have a doctoral program. We should be the first, there's no state institution, pardon me, there's no state university that gives a doctoral, that awards a doctoral degree. So all 9, the Bridgewaters, Westfield, Framingham, none of them do it. And I thought it would be very cool if we could, be the first one to do it. So we have put in what they call a letter of intent with the Department of Higher Education, right? And again, to make a doctoral program, to allow a doctoral program to be approved at that level, you have to show that other schools aren't doing it. You're not competing with other schools, other state universities like UMass Dartmouth down the road. Anyhow, I also feel there's a demand and a need and a role that we could fill in a doctoral program in maritime strategy and security. And so that to me is you have to come in some days and you kind of have to think ahead and be like, imagine if we had a doctoral program at this level, how that would elevate the school to such a different level, especially with everything going on in the world right now. So when you say a word like policy, it can be, as micro down into HR issues, or it can be like macro into thinking up a new program. But I also encourage the students that, if you're taking this master's program in facilities management, you must have this, you must have something internally where you're seeing things that could be changed and you want to affect this. You want to be efficacious and make these changes. And that's what policy is to me. See a better way of doing things. Remember, a great idea, as you well know, everyone has a great idea. It's getting it implemented. I want implementers. And to be an implementer, you have to be able to know how to get policy enacted. And so that's how I feel about that.
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard, policy talked about in that manner. Kudos to you. And for developing or thinking of developing a program like this, you said you've already begun the process?
We submitted it to the Department of Higher Education. You can go on their website. There's a whole thing you have to do. It's called an LOI, a letter of intent. And you have to have a lot of information, the classes and things like that. So I wrote it up and they came back and said, we need a better market analysis. So now I'm in the process of, is there a demand? And, for a program at that height, you know what I mean? By the doctoral level is the top.
Sure.
We're looking at no more than 10 students a year that would be into that. And, and so I have to show a market demand analysis that where we would have that, each year. I mean, I think it's an easy one, but I'm hoping to have that submitted by mid-October. And then of course this will go on. This doesn't happen fast. Even creating the facility management program took over 3 years before they finally approved it.
Wow. But you're working on it. Like you're emulating, I hear that you're emulating and acting upon and implementing exactly what you seek in the students that are looking to get into these programs.
That's, well, yeah, I think you're right. I never thought of it that way, but that's exactly true.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's visionary. It's fantastic. The school's lucky to have you.
But you have to
but
you're doing the same thing. Like this podcast you created, that's visionary. But these facility managers, you can have visionary in infrastructure, right? You can have visionary in organizational structure, with ours, it's academic structure. So, but you should be thinking about all this stuff all the time. And these are the people that we want in the program. Change makers, visionaries, and implementers. Another copyright. Going to copyright that one too? I'm
writing it down right now. Hang on. Change makers, implementers, and innovators. Did I get that right?
Visionaries, I said.
Visionaries.
I think I said, yeah. Go back to the tape.
Yep.
Roll back the tape.
We'll get it. We've got it all recorded. We're good. Awesome, man. Awesome. So another topic we had touched upon is projects. And I know before we started the show today, we were talking about some of the projects that are going on your campus, like the geothermal loop and all these fantastic things. But what aspect of projects would you like to touch upon or expand upon, Jamie?
At Mass Maritime.
Yeah. Or take it anywhere you like. Like, but this is good. Like, I like what you're doing here with the conversation.
Well, as you said, we already have. I can tell you what we've already done. We were leaders, and we have the first 660 kilowatt wind turbine from way back 25 years ago. We were very fortunate actually too in putting that back in, because if I can, I'm just going to say it the way I look at it. Our wind turbine whispers. It's pretty amazing. Everyone said when we put it in that the neighbors were going to complain, that the shadows were going to bother the students, that I don't know, it was going to kill birds or cancer. None of that has happened in 25 years. It literally whispers. Now, I'm sure the bigger ones, if they got in the wrong neighborhood, that were louder could be. We actually were fortunate in that the Clean Energy Center only had so much money, so we got a 661. But that was still very innovative at the time. I mean, you got to go back, way back, 25 years ago. And since then, it's nonstop. And the Admiral here feels the same way. And so it's been, solar in many places. Obviously, everyone's done that. But we also built our American Bureau of Shipping building, which is basically our new library. And it has 45 geothermal well loops there. And now we're going to be doing a much bigger loop, as you just said, starting in the gym parking lot, looping all the way around what they call the Kerrs building and coming back. And those wells, gosh, I mean, I don't know, they must be no more than 2 or 3 inches in diameter, but we're gonna start drilling those come late September. That's
Fantastic.
so, yeah. So there's a lot of that stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there'll be things in the future where we'll even put them on the ship, where we'll have kind of renewables there, even more so. But it's going to be nonstop. Now, I think if you're a facility engineer and a facility manager, you never stop thinking about inefficiencies. Like, I mean, people with swimming pools and have air conditioning in their home on the Cape, I don't understand why the condensing unit is not the swimming pool. Then as you air condition, as you cool your home, you heat your pool. It would be unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah.
I should copyright that. And
You've got a lot of gold here that we need to rewind this thing and get a lot of copyrights
we
going.
all think the same, though. When you got hot water going down, you take a shower and hot water's going down the drain. I'm like, we got to be able to do something with that. So there's a lot going on at Mass Maritime. And to get into the details of it, of course, I'd have to talk to the Alan Metcalf and company and the facility managers here.
Yeah, no, and as you know, we will. We've got big plans, so we'll get some more conversations going with your colleagues. Just question on the 660 kilowatt. Like, what does it power? How do you utilize it?
It basically feeds back into the grid, right? But it certainly offsets. And of course, as you well know, it can be 660, but its average every day is probably 190 to 200.
Yep, got it.
Depending on the wind. No, it feeds back into the grid, and we just get that much back. After our demand is included in our electric bill, whatever's left over, we would be fed back. And then, of course, that's at a much lower kilowatt hour and a KVA demand rate.
Sure.
But yeah, the exact number of what it's saved over 25 years, I couldn't give it to you, but I'm sure it's a lot.
No, it's great. And the number of projects of course, there's more going on the campus. Like, well, you have a new STEM building too, right?
Oh, it's all, yeah. I mean, probably a year from September, we're going to open that one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love to hear all the reinvestment you're doing, or the investment you're doing into the school and the students.
Yeah, I know there's another big push now the next piece is going to be the alumni gymnasium is going to now be doubled in size, and it's going to go out in a big L. We just had a huge donor that came down and liked everything that he saw. And so now that's going to be on the docket. That'll be over the next 5 years.
Congratulations. Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
and that the ship left yesterday with 502 freshman students out for the mini cruise. They're going up the East River and under the Verrazano Narrows and Brooklyn Bridge tomorrow. So that's always exciting and coming back.
Awesome. How were their spirits as they boarded and departed?
I wish you could have heard them marching around.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And it is amazing though. I looked out the window at them and I thought, 48 years ago, I was doing that exact same thing. We don't need to do the math, but yeah.
Hey, rock stars, if you're tuning into the podcast and are feeling overwhelmed by all the maintenance demands at your facility, don't stress. We've got you covered. Our sponsor, Colludus, is your go-to partner to help you tackle all those demands and get them done right, on time, and with top-notch quality. From project planning to execution, Colludus is there to make hard work easy. Visit Falutis.com today to get started. So what's the actual travel? You said they go under the Verrazano, they're doing the East River.
Yeah, and then they just come back. Oh, so they come back up through Hell Gate, but they also
Yep.
go but close to New York Maritime and Kings Point, and they,
Okay.
man the rails, but, blow the horn, blow the whistle and everything
Yep.
else,
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's just because now, as I said, we have 7 undergraduate degrees, but only 2 of them go on the C term for sea time, right? Marine engineering and marine transportation. The school is too full. We're over full now, so we have to have 100 students sleep on the ship even in the fall. So bursting at the seams. And now even next year, we have to drop how many we accept from 520 down to 430 because we just don't have the room for them anymore. So students that don't apply early will have no chance of getting in, really. Or much less, I shouldn't say that, much less of a chance, yeah. So yeah, so the orientation mini cruise is all of the students go, just 3 days because most of them will never be able to, they're not going to pick that major. They're going to pick facilities and go on internships. All the other ones go on internships.
Okay.
So it's all the freshmen and the cadre, which is the regimental staff, and they go down and they go just loop right around Long Island, and then they go into the Verrazano, Brooklyn, Manhattan, right up the East River, Hell Gate, and slide back up here, and then graduate from orientation this Friday night.
That is so exciting. Wow. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. It's funny you say that they have to sleep on the ship because, well, I'll just say it. As we've discussed, my dad was a graduate too, and that was many, many years ago. And he slept on the ship, but it was not an enjoyable experience for him. But I think one of your colleagues recently shared with me that it really is now. It's almost like this is where I'd like to be.
Oh, the students love it now because it's the seniors that are, the first class, I should say, marine engineers and marine transportation, the ones that are going to be, licensed officers in the merchant marine. And the rooms are beautiful, all air conditioned and everything else. So they are more than happy to do it. And it works out really well because they are going to be leading the C term come January anyway. So it really works out. They love it really well.
That's great. That's fantastic. So we talked about projects too, and I just want to make sure we do cover the things that we did speak about. We wanted to talk about energy. Did we already cover what you wanted to speak about there with the geothermal in the project discussion, or was there more to that?
Oh, I think we covered it. I don't. I think it's great what they're doing. The energy loop, where the actual geothermal wells are going to, make the biggest impact in the school would be in the gymnasium and in the new Kurz building and in the Harrington building as they come up the loop. So, a lot depends on, obviously when they're drilling these, the number keeps changing. So if I misspeak and go from 400 to 200, the CEC, it has let us, initially it was going to be over 400 wells, and I think that's knocked down somewhat. I think a lot depends on what they find. I mean, when they get down there to those aquifers and see what they find and then putting it all together. But I'm sure it'll be another great savings. And I mean, the CEC wants to show that these are innovative new approaches that can actually work. That's really the main goal.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, saving BTUs is everything.
It's funny, the pool reference to well, we'll save that for offline. I have a funny pool story for you
But can you imagine though, if I will make a hypothesis that especially in New England, people that have swimming pools have central air conditioning 99% of the time. I don't know why that's true, but I know it's true. And how is it that we don't have a little shell and tube heat exchanger at the bottom of the swimming pool that condenses the refrigerant? It would be brilliant. Yep. Imagine if you turned on your air conditioning in your home and in my example, I turn to my wife and say, well, I'm heating the pool. I know.
I bet she'd love it.
It would be so much better. You wouldn't, first of all, you wouldn't need a fan anymore, right? Because the condenser's down below and the swimming pool. And obviously when you turned on your air conditioning, you'd have to turn on your swimming pool pump, but that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's just the pump. Most people would leave that running 24/7 all summer anyway.
I know it. It'd be amazing.
You have a lot of projects you need to implement, Jamie.
Think how quiet. It would be so much quieter out here. Yeah, you wouldn't have that fan going
Yes,
in the condenser, Anyhow, keep going.
Yeah,
I don't want to hold you up here. We could talk about engineering stuff forever.
It's hey, I believe our listeners would are enjoying what you're saying right now. So I think we're good. I know we wanted to touch on finance too. It's one of the passions you have, Jamie. So yeah, jump right in, man.
Well, finance is one of my passions because I feel that it's not taught enough and properly anywhere. And when students, in all the graduate programs, and I'd say when in the few times they do it in the undergraduate programs, like in the International Maritime Business Program, students struggle with financial math. And it's such an important part of living in this great country and understanding, how money works. And for example, students often graduate from an engineering program and don't understand the idea of present value, future value of money. And so in a finance class, we have to have the teachers that are very skilled, that can walk them through the Excel spreadsheet, right? On how to, for example, how many people do you know that could calculate if they were buying a home, calculate their mortgage? You know what I
Great
mean?
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's an exact present value payment and future value question.
Mhm.
You would think that would be like simple math. So I have put those courses in all three of my programs, and I just try to push it as hard as I can that students need to understand finance and accounting. And the trouble is you don't have enough time. So you can get
Mm.
because just think about how much students in like an accounting program study finance, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I think that every student should have a financial calculator. I think they should learn how to use Excel spreadsheets and learn how to do financial calculations. I mean, just think about this. No college in the United States offers a credit-bearing class on taxes.
Oh, wow.
Just
Didn't
think
know
about
that.
that. How
Mm.
bizarre is that?
Hmm.
This country is all about how to avoid taxes legally. And everyone knows the rules change, but I just can't fathom. I mean, you could ask any student that graduates from college, what's Schedule A, what's Schedule B, C, D, E, they probably wouldn't know. And it's so important. So from present value, future value, financial math, Excel spreadsheets, and taxes, I think it's critically important that a facility manager knows that.
I completely agree and applaud you again for, you said you implemented 3 courses on
One core,
finance.
yeah, three, but one in each of the three graduate programs. So there's three graduate
Gotcha.
programs: the facilities management, emergency management, right, and maritime business management. So they're all in there. But I will say, students know it's one of the toughest classes in the program.
So it's just that leads me into the question, right? How is it being received? How is it going? And do they feel like they're really gaining from something that's invaluable experience and knowledge, in my opinion?
It's being very well received. And I have two professors that one of them teaches it in two programs, one teaches it in one, and they share, Harvard case studies. I have told them that I want Harvard case studies and I want Excel spreadsheets and I want them to do presentations on what they've learned. That's kind of the root of every kind of course. And so far, gets better and better and better because the professors have gotten more and more skilled at teaching the classes. So
Mm.
yeah, they've been very well received. So I'm very happy about that. It used to be, because like for example, it would be nice to be able to fit statistics
Mm.
in these programs, but statistics is something that you can't do over one class. It's not enough time to get deep enough into it where it would matter, at least my opinion. But finance, you can get a lot done in one class.
Yeah, I just think it's fantastic. As we have one son in college and one in high school, and our high school son always says, schools don't teach enough of the stuff that you really need to know in life, Dad.
Let's just
And
stay.
this
Yeah.
is one of those things right there. So that's great. All right, so we're gonna I want to ask you kind of a different question here about, you've been to sea, you've had some, I think you've shared kind of, I'll say, hairy experiences there. You've done a lot with the graduate program, with the school. You've been there for years, all these new ideas. Well, what's been your most challenging situation, say, for you and your team, or just you yourself? What did you face and how did you get through it?
Um, Well, I would say the toughest one happened this year. I had a professor in a program that he had his skills had been going down, and then I would have to take some of the responsibility. I should have probably moved him out earlier. Um, so I instead, we talked about aptitude and training. I
Mhm.
tried to train him. I gave him classes in PowerPoint and when to use PowerPoint and how you can and sent him to this and that, and it didn't quite work out. And during this last time teaching, um, I don't know if you know, but the program is synchronous online. And so the students go to class Friday and Saturday, have the weekend off, Friday and Saturday, weekend off, Friday and Saturday, like that. So after one weekend, the students were in full revolt. And you're in kind of a bind now because a class is like an event. Once it's started, it kind of has to finish. And never before in the history of Mass Maritime, undergrad or grad, except for sickness, has a professor ever been moved in the middle of a class. Like once they start teaching it, they usually teach it. And I had to remove this professor, and I had to tell him he was going to be removed. And I only had a very, very short window to find someone that could take his place, jump in after what he had already done, and actually do a complete, if I can use a maritime term, course correction in a very short amount of time. And it was amazing how it worked out. But I will say I try to keep a bullpen, if that's so I can use that term,
Mhm.
of people that I mean, I feel like I'm the center of the hourglass sometimes. I get so many facility rock stars that will say to me, either I'm looking for people I would love to hire people, or they'd say, I'd love to teach in the program if there's ever a spot. So I did have a line on a few people, and that was very fortunate that I had that. So I went to this one person and then I had to onboard him within like 48 hours, which is tricky at a public institution. And worked out great. But I will say it was touch and go there for a while. But those are personnel issues. Personnel issues are tough. I
Yep.
mean, I've had very hairy issues at sea when those are more like life or death, and that's a different kind of scary issue.
Yeah, life and death is, yep.
Yeah.
As hard as that other example would have been, I would imagine the at sea life or death scenario could be a little more difficult in
Yeah,
some
that one
ways.
was. Yeah, yeah, that one definitely was. I always said um, that the one at sea was the hardest day of my life. And if I kept telling myself during it, if you can ever get through this, you can get through anything.
Wow. Oh boy. Are we
Yeah.
able to talk about where you were? Does
Oh
it,
yeah, yeah. I was on, yeah, you got to go back in time now, right? I was the late 80s and the oil industry had crashed. And so the oil rig I was on was getting stacked, not mothballed, stacked in Galveston, Texas, right across from Texas A&M, Texas Maritime Academy, actually, right next to the sulfur pit at Pier 41. And we were ballasted up and tied to the pier. And one of those freak, I wouldn't say a tornado, but could have been a freak thunderstorm hit with unbelievable winds. And we were tied up great, and the ropes didn't break, but the bollards pulled right out of the pier. We
oh
took
wow.
half the pier with us. And this was an oil rig that had no propulsion. It was always towed to a place. So we have no propulsion, and our anchors were not on a chain chaser system. They were on a pendant system. So we had the buoys on the deck, and we had East Coast and West Coast stoppers stopping off the pendant. And I'm telling you that because we couldn't drop an anchor. So we had no propulsion, couldn't drop an anchor, and
Oof.
and we're drifting now down Galveston Channel, getting ready. We could, if all the lines hadn't broke, only the stern lines had broke. So we were turning out into the channel. And if we had broken free completely, we would have ping ponged down off all the oil rigs in the channel with the wind the way it was. And so I came out of the mess deck, and I remember I looked, and usually it was the water tower that I would see out the bridge, window. And then I didn't see the water tower, and I knew we must have broken away. Literally dropped my coffee, went running out on deck, And the hawser, I heard all the lines snapping and popping like firecrackers. And I went to the forward one, and the hawser, which was a 5-inch hawser, was down to about, inch and a half, stretched, getting ready to go. And the superintendent yelled, "Cinch it back up," because I said, "Cinch it back up. Are you nuts?" And I released the brake and let us drift as much as I dared. And then I just touched the brake so the line didn't break, got on the radio, called immediately the Coast Guard for tug support. And I'm like, "I'm on one last line here and I need tugs as soon as possible." And they came, got us back to the pier. But to tie up, when we finally got back to the pier, the only way we could tie up is we had to take cranes and trucks and drag anchors out into the field because the bollards were gone. They had been ripped into the
Oh
water.
my God.
Yeah, no, it was a crazy day. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. If that last line had broke, we would have been drifting down the channel with no way to stop it.
That's insane.
I know. I think
My
about
God.
it occasionally, but that was one of those, like I said, if you can get through a day like that, you're always like, well, I can get through anything.
Sure.
We all, but that's a different issue. Yeah.
Well, and you know what I'm picking up is really like it went back to your training, because if you didn't have the proper skills to work, something that was 5 inches down to 1.5 inches and know enough to let some slack out first,
Oh, the noise when I released that brake. Oh,
right.
The noise. Yeah.
Unreal.
But yeah, it was one of those things.
Wow. So if I were to ask you if you had advice to give to someone in say in your role, or for that matter, Jamie, anyone in the facilities professional position or professional facilities position, right? What would that advice be?
Well, I mean, we know that so many of these adages are true. I mean, you never stop learning, right? Go get another class. I still like going to class and all, right? So we all know that one's true. But the advice, if I had to give anyone advice, like advice on anything, I think I would say a little and listen a lot, right? And just say, sometimes it's better, especially in so many situations, right? People want to be heard. When your subordinates come in, I mean, try not to interrupt them. Let them have, let them say whatever's bothering them. I feel the same way in senior staff meetings, right? I listen mostly to what everyone says going around the table. But it is, I don't know, it's kind of, we're wired in. Most of us, I know that at my age, I have to fight off not interrupting people. Like I find myself doing it. So I have to take my own advice to say less and listen more.
I think it's fantastic advice for anybody. I mean, I reflect the meeting I was just in. What did I do? Did I say a little and listen more? I'm not sure, but that's fair and fantastic advice. Really,
I think a country and western artist should come up with a song. Say less, listen more.
Well, if it doesn't exist, there you go. There's another thing that you need to make happen.
That's right. You
make a song. So, I have a full list of to-dos for you here. So a lot to do after the show. Jamie, we've learned a ton from you here. I mean, this is all gold and a lot to go back to. And I'm sure people are going to want to reach out to you after the show. So thank you for sharing all of your knowledge thus far. And I want to ask a little bit about you too, though, like learn more about you, like when you unplug, or if you can unplug, what do you do? What makes you tick? What do you enjoy when you're not doing all the things for Mass Maritime?
Like anyone that's wired the way we're wired, I do have unbelievable love of home projects. And as I said, I tell the students, whether they're grad students or undergraduate students, you're a facility engineer or facility manager, a marine engineer or a mass maritime engineer, when your wife, your daughter, your son, your friend says to you, "Hey, something such and such is broken at the house," like I said, or the light's not working, and you go, "Awesome, let's go," and you're ready to go. You love it, whether it's an electrical problem, a plumbing problem, or I don't know, a carpentry problem. We just love doing it. So home projects, I love. My daughter and her fiance have bought a home in Medford, and I love going up there when they need me and helping out occasionally and stuff like that. That's one. I I try to still go to the gym every morning. It happened this morning, but it doesn't always happen. I have a little boat and we go out in Vineyard Sound and we go to the vineyard and we do a few things like that. Like all my friends, music is a big part of our lives. I don't play music. I wish I knew more about music, but I certainly love music. So we go to concerts, and I'm part of the Falmouth Theater Guild, and we go see their shows and things like that. And we go to the Katuitt Center for the Arts and have fun. We're very fortunate to live where we live down in Falmouth, so it's fun.
Yeah. We've discussed that. It's a beautiful, you are an extremely well-rounded person. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. Good for you. Love it. And you still have that pull. Are they going to call me to fix something in their house? Because that's the call you really want to get, right?
That's the call you want to get. That's actually, that's a better way to say it. That's a better way to say it. I know. You want to, I'm dying for my daughter to say, hey, can you come up and do X, Y? I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there in an hour. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Oh, it's funny because occasionally this doesn't happen it happens less and less because now we have plenty of professors that are great here, but occasionally something will happen and they'll ask me to go in and teach a class with the undergrads, and
Yep.
like 2 cruises ago, they had an empty spot at the last minute, and I went on the C term and taught the seniors. And I remember whenever I get a chance to do that, I'm so excited. I'm like bursting out of my skin. And so I usually come into class and I'm trying to take deep breaths and I have a straight face on and I say to the students, I just want you to know I'm really excited to be here.
I bet they love that.
Because I am. I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. And so whenever they tap me in, whether it's a lab or a class, I am over the moon excited.
Awesome. That's great. Well, that lands. That certainly lands. What if people wanted to get in touch with you, and I'm certain they will, with everything you shared, what's the best way for people to reach out? And I can put it in the show notes. But
my email, I'm totally helplessly, hopelessly addicted. Yeah, and I check it all day, every day, all weekend. You can jmcdonald@maritime.edu, JMCDonald @maritime.edu.
awesome.
And I will definitely respond.
Jamie, you're doing amazing things, and the whole team's doing incredible things down there at MMA. I'm so impressed, and a little sneak peek. We have some exciting stuff coming up at the school. We're going to collaborate quite a bit, and you and I and others are creating that now. So this fall, everybody stay tuned. So you're going to hear a lot more from the professionals at MMA. Jamie, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. It was really enjoyable. I appreciate it very, very much.
Loved it, Chet. Are you kidding me? We could talk all day.
Yeah, and when we after the show, maybe we will.
That's right.
No, and thank you for everyone who tuned in. I'm certain we all learned from Captain McDonald today. You can find us on Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcast. So fantastic show today, and stay tuned for the next one next week. It's a wrap. Another episode of Facility Rockstars is in the books. Facility Rockstars is sponsored by Colutus, operating the way you operate in order to make your life easier. Until next time, facilitate and rock on.